Mr Farage, would you ever consider coming back, making a return?
Well, I'm still busy with the European Parliament doing that, but as far as leading the party, I'm enjoying the rest.
You are?
Very much so.
I have to say, it's great.
All right, we got it, guys. Well done.
Nigel, thank you very much for coming. Yes, it's nice to see you. And I have to say, we're hoping that Paul will make it, because he'll move down here and then we can really nag him.
Do it properly.
No, John keeps me in line, don't you, John?
I try, anyway.
Absolutely.
Anyway, it's good of you to come.
No, not at all.
You can see the press are more interested than even the public at the moment.
Yeah, well, it's not quite the same fever pitch as the referendum was in this town.
You know why?
Wow.
We kept quiet about it until last night.
Right, okay.
We were told that we had to keep quiet about your coming because of hope not hate, full of hate, not hope.
Completely, yeah, no, I know that.
And also we have the National Socialist Workers' Party who have been leafleting in our areas.
Right, okay.
And they are all attacking UKIP, not anybody else, who's spending our money abroad instead of keeping it here for the
A bit like the TV debate the other night.
Yes.
That was good, wasn't
exactly.
it? That's a nice balanced audience.
Well, I have to say they were left-wingers, left, right and centre.
Well, I called it, do you remember 2 years ago? I did the leaders debate. I actually turned to the camera and said, what's this all about?
Yeah.
I mean, Leanne Wood had 4 personal friends in the front row.
Yeah, absolutely. The BBC loaded it.
I thought 2 years on they might improve. Actually, it was worse.
Yes.
But they didn't hug at the end like they did with yours.
Oh, I remember that.
Just summed it up.
Wandered down to the pier, Nigel?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, fine. How am I doing? All right.
There he goes.
We got it. Great stuff. Thank you.
Well done.
Hello. Hi. How are we? All right.
See you later. Little girl.
How are you? All right.
My first blackout campaign.
Well, I can't work out whether I've missed it. I suppose I probably have. Thanks very much. It's my first little visit to the general election. So, yeah, I mean, I thought I was going to come support a few candidates, and yeah, I'm still part of UKIP. I'm not leading it, thank goodness, but I'm still part of it. And funny, as the election campaign's gone on, I think my confidence in Mrs May to really deliver on this has fallen by the day.
Absolutely.
I just don't believe anything she says. There's a total lack of sincerity. She seems to U-turn on everything, and I think the Prime Minister is a weathercock, not a signpost. And I worry that a Tory majority, without the real Eurosceptics having a strong enough voice, and that's why I think a UKIP voice or two there would be very, very handy.
Do you think that message is cutting through?
Well, I think what they did when they launched the campaign, and obviously they knew the date they were going to call the general election. The big pitch was, I'm for Brexit, as if she was a sort of Damascene convert, and if you don't vote for me, there'll be a coalition of chaos that will stop Brexit from happening. And I think that overnight saw a lot of UKIP voters say, crikey, Brexit needs to happen. So initially, a lot of Eurosceptics did buy into that message, but I think as the campaign's gone on, I think actually she's gone from being their biggest asset to being their biggest liability. It's quite tough to believe anything she says.
Yeah. But she talks very tough about Brexit, and she says no deal is better or bad deal is better.
I wonder where that phrase came from.
Yeah.
I wonder where that. I mean, that's the funny thing, isn't it? That when it comes to Brexit, she literally echoes and uses the same words and phrases that I've been using for 20 years. And then you read the small print. I mean, this was the Home Secretary who was going to get us out of the European Court of Human Rights. She's now a pro-Brexit Prime Minister who says we're going to stay part of the European Court of Human Rights. This is the pro-Brexit Prime Minister who opted us back into the European arrest warrant and working fully with the European police force. When you start to read the small print, the big words and the big speeches don't mean quite as much.
But what kind of deal do you think she's looking for?
I don't think she's got a clue. I honestly don't think she's got a clue. I mean, to say no deal is better than a bad deal is of course right, and it was the one thing I thought with the interview with Jeremy Paxman where she was floundering. Once she said that, she began to get the audience on her side. But I would just say to people, look at her record on immigration as Home Secretary, look at her record at dealing with jihadism, radicalisation in prisons. It's not very impressive.
Mr Farage, could I ask you a question about Clacton? Clacton should be a shoo-in for you, but you are the underdogs.
I don't know, are you a bookmaker?
Well, I'm saying what your candidates told me this morning.
That's true.
Well, Well, look, I don't know is the answer to that, but you're right in one sense. This is one of the most Eurosceptic constituencies in the whole of the country. I think sort of 70% voted Brexit, and yes, the Conservatives have put up a pro-Remain candidate, so we must be in with a good chance. Whether we're favourites or coming from behind, I've no idea.
What would you consider a victory in this election for UKIP? 1 MP? Because, I mean, last time you had 4 million votes, you don't have anywhere near that time.
No, it's a very fair system. I mean, I do agree with that. I mean, what happened last time round showed you what a joke it is, and why, of course, no one wants it to change. Look, I'm not the leader of this party. You can ask the leader. I'm a member of this party. I'm out here supporting our candidates. I've no idea what's going to happen next Thursday. What I do know is that 2 years from now, it is likely that in towns like this that voted for Brexit, believing, for example, that Clacton would get back its fishing rights, I'm beginning to think that won't happen. And so I do think a strong UKIP voice in British politics could be more important in 2 years' time than it's ever been.
The trouble is, we've spoken to UKIP voters, previous UKIP voters in this town, who all say they don't know.
Well, that was the case, and I've explained that. That May launched the campaign. It was done on, of her own timing. I'm the Brexit Prime Minister. A vote for anybody else means Brexit won't happen. And a lot of UKIP voters said, yeah, OK, we've got to go with that. But that was when things were strong and stable. I'm not so sure they are now.
Can I ask you gentlemen a question about EU nationals? We have 3.5 million of them being guaranteed to remain in the UK after Brexit. Don't you think they should all have a criminal police background check before they're allowed to stay?
Well, we should be doing criminal background checks before anyone comes in, shouldn't we?
But that wasn't my question.
Yeah, I mean, look, we don't want bad people to stay, but people who came legally, we can't turn the clock back on that. Only a banana republic would do that.
Even if they've committed crimes since they've
Well, that's different if they committed crime. Of course that's different. But on the general big picture of it, did we let too many people in? Yes.
Yeah.
But did they come in legally? I mean, we would literally be like a banana republic if we reversed that. So we can't do that. And I'm surprised, actually, she's using that as a bargaining chip. Because that's the one thing I think on which she could gain the high moral ground and say, right, we're going to do this. And the idea that on the Costa del Sol, they chuck out the Brits. I mean, half the businesses, certainly the bars are closed, wouldn't they?
But it's not responsible to the British people to have so many EU criminals in this country that don't have police checks.
I think there are, is it 4,000 to 5,000 EU nationals in prisons, etc. So yeah, I take the point on crime.
I think there's more than that.
EU nationals
in our prisons. I think there's more than that.
10,000 foreign prisoners, about half the EU. Anyway, let's not split hairs over it. But is there a problem? Yes. And have we allowed criminal gangs and trafficking gangs to come in freely? We have. So that needs to be changed, doesn't it? But do you think this Prime Minister has actually got the guts to do it?
No.
That's the point.
Thank you.
And that's how I feel about it. We'll keep going. Hello.
Welcome back.
How are you? All right?
We meet again.
Very good. Yeah.
You're the only man that can sort them out.
Well,
You're the only man. And I'm disappointed the way they turned from you to the Conservatives.
Yep.
You done the work,
yep.
And they step in and say, well,
Well, yes, I mean, you would think that Theresa May was a Brexiteer, wouldn't you?
Yeah. You see, once you left there was no one to catch her by the scruff of the neck.
I haven't gone away. I'm not in hiding. I haven't retired.
I know, but you can't be everywhere at the one time.
Well, that is also
I realise that.
That is also true.
I see you on television. I never miss it.
I promise you one thing. I should be watching the Brexit process in Brussels, because that's where the negotiations going to take place.
That's it.
And I'm going to watch it like a hawk. And if she fails to deliver on this...
You got my vote as usual.
Terrific. Thank you very much.
Good question. What can UKIP do for the next generation?
Well, I hope the one thing that UKIP has already tried to do for the next generation is to make an argument that we should live in a democracy where we make our own rules and don't have them handed down to us from somewhere else. I mean, there is a slightly odd thing happening in this country that of the sort of 18 to 24-year-olds, a majority voted Remain. Yet across Europe, it's that age group that are actually turning against the system.
Unemployed.
And well, the euro. We didn't join the Eurozone, thank goodness. I think if we had, our youngsters would probably feel the same as French youngsters. But no, to me, I would argue that young people, it's about empowerment. It's about being in charge of your own future. And unless you can vote for people that make your laws and and be able to get rid of them, you haven't got that power. And as part of the European Union, that's what we've given away. So we're going to be British, we're going to be proud of it, and we're not going to pretend that the only friends we have in the world are our next door neighbours across the channel. We'll reach out to a bigger, wider world. The Commonwealth's been quite a good place. So I hope that's useful. All right, lovely.
Good morning, Nigel. You're live on BBC Essex's Facebook page.
Hi.
Why have you chosen Clacton as the first place to come out on the campaign trail of this general election?
Well, I think there's quite a symbolism about this place. I mean, it is probably the most Eurosceptic constituency of the whole of the country. I mean, tendering district council overall was nearly 70% leave. It's obviously a place in which we've had big success in the past, before and after Douglas Carswell. I mean, even before Carswell joined us, UKIP was really on the march in this seat. So let's look at it. The Conservatives have a candidate, very nice chap, but he's a Remainer.
But you have the party is now in single digits in the polls behind the Liberal Democrats. It's going to be very hard for you not only to get one seat like you did last time here, but actually get any seats.
Well, look, you know, you can make the same argument to the Lib Dems to everybody. I mean, really, what Mrs May's tried to do is to define this election as her v Corbyn, and to some extent, that's been the narrative for the first few weeks. I would just say this to you: the very large numbers of UKIP voters who, on the 18th of April, said we've got to vote for Mrs May because she says if she doesn't win, the others will undo Brexit. And I think as time goes on, people now look at Mrs May and think, is she going to deliver? She seems to U-turn on everything else.
But this is going to be a tough fight for your party. Is that one of the reasons why you decided not to stand yourself? Because you are, you know,
well, no. I mean, I've made the point that I'm leading a group in the European Parliament, and that's where the Brexit negotiations will be. I entered politics more for Brexit than I did for broader politics. So it's logical for me to keep that group leadership in Brussels for the next 2 years. Yeah, look, of course, it's been a tough few weeks.
In the one of our sister stations, BBC Northampton, their debate last night, one of the candidates said that actually they would like a change at the top of UKIP. They're not so happy with the leadership. If UKIP doesn't pick up any seats in this election, should there be a change at the top of the party?
Oh, don't ask me. I'm just an ordinary member.
Well, I'll ask you. You've come back before. Would you come back again?
I very much doubt it. No.
Very much. That's not a no.
No, of course I'm not going to do that. That was a bit.
You're definitely not coming back.
No, it was a massive chunk of my life, and I don't regret it at all. I don't think, unless I put into it what I did over all those years, would have got the referendum in the first place. But it's not for me again. Is
it a manifesto that you're proud of as well? Are you happy with all the bits, including things like the burqa ban, for example, and net immigration to zero?
I've watched. I've looked at the manifesto, read the manifesto. I've seen the debates that have gone on around it. I'm very supportive.
I mean, including the burqa ban, you think that's a good one?
I'm very supportive of the UKIP manifesto. You know, even when I was leader, as Mr Corbyn's found out, even as leader, you know, unless you're a dictator, you don't get your own manifesto. But do I think the manifesto overall heads in the right direction? Do I think that Paul Nuttall made the right arguments the other night, despite being shouted down on sort of cacophony that was around him? Then the answer is yes. And I think, you know, whatever happens next Thursday, I feel more and more certain that Mrs May as Prime Minister will perform about as well as Mrs May did as Home Secretary, i.e. making big calls, big statements, big speeches, and not delivering.
I'm going to let you carry on, but one quick question. You put a bet on with Brexit. Have you put on a bet on how many seats UKIP is going to win this time round?
Not yet, but you know, I'm always looking at the prices.
All right. Well, there we go.
Hello. Still giving money away when there's poverty in this country and in Clacton. It's disgusting.
Well, you're right. And I tell you what is very, very surprising is that Mrs May, knowing how unpopular David Cameron's foreign aid budget was, that he ran, because we now give more than anybody in the world,
of course we do,
away in foreign aid, and Mrs May's decided to keep it at the same level.
Disgusting.
You know, and also, the other thing, of course, is we voted Brexit, but we're still paying in 30 million quid a day net. So we're still shelling out a lot of money.
We're still borrowing money.
You know, and we're still.
If I was to do that in my house, give next door neighbour Lily next door some money, and I'm getting into debt.
Yeah. Well, we're still, and this has not even been discussed in this election, but we're still borrowing £50 billion every blooming year. So the country's living beyond its means, and yet we're happy to give 25 billion a year away. to foreign aid in the EU.
Yeah.
So we're actually borrowing money to give away. Absolutely. You got it. You got it on the money.
Can I ask you, do you think you're going to win here this time?
I've no idea. I've just arrived. Do we have a good chance? Yes.
What would it mean for you if you lose? The same party's over.
Oh, but you know, you asked me that last year about the referendum, and I wouldn't answer you. So I'm not going to do it now, you know.
We've spoken to a few people today. What are they telling you about specifically about Clacton and Paul?
So, you know, I think you've got quite a long history here of MPs that come in from outside. So that's not particularly. Also, the fact is that most people living in Clacton are living around. It's that kind of place, isn't it? People come to. I think. I mean, clearly, what happened on the 18th of April with the launching of the election and with Mrs May making a very strong pro-Brexit speech and saying if you don't vote for me, you'll get the coalition of chaos and Brexit won't happen, that panicked and frightened an awful lot of people. So sort of overnight, half the UKIP vote in the country said, well, this time we're going to have to vote Conservatives. That was then. They were in the days of Strong and Stable, remember that? I mean, now they're hiding her in a cupboard. She wouldn't even appear on Woman's Hour this morning. So, look, I think now people are beginning to look at it and think, well, you know, actually, is she really going to deliver on this stuff? She didn't do very well as Home Secretary. She did not deal with radicalisation in prisons. She did not deal with non-EU migration, despite having the power to do so. So I think actually there's been a bit of a flow back towards UKIP, because people say, well, actually, we need the real deal. I would also say that whatever happens next Thursday, the really big question about UKIP will be where are we in 2 years' time? Because let's just say she delivered Brexit lock, stock and barrel, then UKIP would need to ask itself a serious question about what its role was. But I think the chances of that now look very, very limited. I mean, she's already given up on leaving the ECHR and decided to stay in. Whenever I try and push them on fisheries, I don't get a firm answer. So I think there's an awful lot of backsliding happening already. And I would say this to you, that we could find, in 2 years' time, a really large number of those 17,410,723, how about that? We could find a large number of those people enraged that they voted for Brexit and didn't get it, and in those circumstances you would find UKIP actually would be more relevant to British politics than perhaps it ever was.
So you think the people of Clacton are going to be particularly angry with Mrs May when it doesn't all happen in 2 years?
I tell you what, down in Jaywick, you know, where I know they wear their hearts on their sleeve because I've been there a couple of times, they would be livid if this didn't happen.
You've been here before telling everyone to vote for Carswell. Now you're telling them to vote for Paul locally. Should we listen to you again?
Well, I mean, in the by-election, it was very useful. You know, winning Rochester, it did keep that momentum that we had going on from the European elections and helped for David Cameron not to start backing away from offering a referendum. So it was very, you know, I mean, of its time it was useful. It just turned out that he didn't really agree with our views on things. Yeah. You're joking? Oh my good God. Right, that's big news. Okay, thank you. Craig McKinley has just been charged.
Kicking yourself that you're not running for it now?
No, very happy with my life. You know, I did the job leading UKIP for a very, very long time. I loved it. We achieved a hell of a lot. You simply can't go on living the way I was forever. It's just too tough. And I find myself now with an amazing perch in the European Parliament where all the negotiations over Brexit are going to take place. So, no regrets from me at all.
What do you think Theresa May needs to do now about Craig McKinley?
Well, I think what Theresa May needs to do about everything is make her mind up. Where does she stand on things? Remarkable. Did you see the interview yesterday? She was asked, there were 2 restaurants in the city, she was asked, would she prefer to have lunch in Coq d'Argent or Simpson's Tavern? She said Simpson's Tavern. The journalist said, that's Nigel Farage's favourite restaurant. She changed her mind. I mean, this woman, she even U-turns on where she wants to go for lunch.
I think it means more broadly in the context of 7 days to go till the general election.
Well, once again, it is bad judgment from Theresa May. You know, why on earth would you allow someone to go ahead as a general election candidate when this cloud was clearly hanging over him? And I think it will. You know, there'll be questions.
Can I ask you about President Trump's decision to ditch the Paris climate agreement? What do you make of that?
It's called democracy. It's remarkable. So he puts in his manifesto, if elected, I will break the Paris Accord and seek a better deal for America, and he's elected on that ticket. And then do you know what he does? Unlike almost every other Western world leader, including Theresa May, he sticks to what he promised he would do. It's called democracy. And the idea that Mr. Juncker or President Obama can say, no, you haven't got the power to do that. Well, what should we do? Just suspend all elections? He's fully within his rights to do it.
And yet Theresa May has refused to sign a letter by European leaders today condemning this decision. She says it is entirely up to Washington. Presumably you'd agree with that.
Well, I would agree with that. I mean, I think Theresa May regrets the decision, and that's on the issue of carbon dioxide emissions. But it would have been a bad thing if the British Prime Minister had signed a letter with the Italians, French and Germans.
What about the issue of immigration? We have uncertainty there. David Davis last night saying that not really in total agreement with the Prime Minister.
I think George Osborne blew the gaff on this, you know, when he said that the tens of thousands target that was put in 2 consecutive Conservative manifestos, most of the Cabinet didn't agree with it or didn't even want it. And I think the fact they've, for the 3rd manifesto in a row, promised they'll reduce immigration to tens of thousands a year, you know, they're doing it to get votes. I don't think anybody takes them seriously. I don't. And the only party really talking about having a radically different immigration policy is UKIP.
What about the NHS?
Well, what about the NHS? What about the £2 billion a year of our money that's lost to health tourism? What about issues like that? You know,
what are you going to do about it?
Well, stop health tourism, right, and actually have some backbone to do it. I mean, that's the point.
Money to put in it?
Well, not as much as Boris promised, but but yeah, I mean, look, we are at the minute, all right, we are sending £30 million every single day to the European Union as a membership fee. The day we decide to stop sending that is the day we can decide to start spending a bit more money on our own people. And I would say that Theresa May has continued David Cameron's absurd level of spending on foreign aid. We now give away in foreign aid more than any country in the world, and I do think it's a perfectly reasonable argument to say that actually many parts of our, not just health service, I think the primary school system, you know, are stretched beyond belief, and we ought to start thinking about our own people first. That's what I believe.
Would you have upheld the Paris Climate Change Accord yourself if you'd been Prime Minister?
Oh, I'm not Prime Minister, I'm not President, but I do think that what Paris did was to give developed countries a pretty rotten deal. And I've heard all the propaganda coming out today from the renewables industry, an industry that has lived off taxpayers' money, saying actually there are loads of jobs to be created in renewables, and the truth of it is a huge number of jobs have been lost in traditional manufacturing and engineering. And just look at this country. Just look at the fact that we've lost 24 chemical plants, we've lost refineries, we've lost both of our aluminium smelters. You know, we have lost vast numbers of jobs in this country by pursuing not just climate change targets, but actually by the carbon floor that George Osborne put on. And you know,
in the science, then?
Well, I tell you what I do believe in, and that is that the United Kingdom produces about 2% of the world's total carbon dioxide emissions. And I'm not sure it makes sense for us to be wholesale closing down heavy industry when the Indians and Chinese are building coal-fired power stations at a rate that we can't even get our heads around.
The point surely is everyone should be doing their bit.
Well, that's fine if they really are, but there isn't too much evidence of that. And I also think, as somebody who used to regard himself as an environmentalist, I even voted Green once. I did a long time ago. I do think we put far too much emphasis on carbon dioxide as opposed to many of the other nasties that are put out into the atmosphere.
Mr. Farage, you've got good connections with the Trump administration.
That's what they say.
Since the story yesterday that you might be a person of interest for the FBI, have you been in contact with them? Have you checked in? Have you got any tips from Jared Kushner about how he's been handling it?
You know, I have to say that the left-wing conspiracists, they can't get to grips with Brexit or Trump. They're desperately searching for a reason that this all went wrong. And it's Trump knows Farage, Trump met Assange, therefore Farage must be a Russian spy. And I want to say, it is total baloney.
Why didn't that interview with Julian Assange for LBC come off then, when you went to meet him?
Because it was a preliminary meeting, but that was why I went.
Was he too boring?
LBC set, nice try. LBC set that interview up for me to meet him with a view to doing an interview particularly about the European arrest warrant. And the reason he wanted to talk to me is he knows I've been a strong opponent of the European arrest warrant. For the record, I've never been to Russia. I've never done business with Russia. I've never borrowed money from a Russian bank. I have no Russian connections whatsoever. ever. This is wild, conspiratorial nonsense.
What do you intend to do next on these claims? Will you be instructing lawyers of any kind, or just carrying on?
Do you know, if I instructed lawyers every time a hard left newspaper wrote something ludicrous about me, I wouldn't have time to do anything else in my life.